What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Heather Spear, presented to you by NoleGameDay.com. We are here on this fantastic Saturday late afternoon after Florida State's big-time dominant win over Walt Bell and UMass Minutemen, 59-3. Dustin, this game was over at halftime, which we haven't been able to see in a very long time. Dustin, it is. We talked about it in the press box, but it has been a minute since we've seen Florida State come out and take care of business like they should, and they did, and only allowed 3 points for Walt Bell on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it was nice, at least from pretty much the whole second quarter and, the third and fourth quarters, just kind of sit back and relax and not really have to worry about UMass coming back in this one. It was a little scary there, I guess, for the first minute whenever UMass recovered that fumble on the opening kickoff and went up 3-0. But I mean, man, after that, it was pretty much complete domination from Florida State. The offense was just clicking, putting together fast scoring drives, long scoring drives as well. And the defense, they did a pretty good job overall. I thought there were a couple times where UMass had some drives, but, in the end, you had Jamie Robinson get the pick in the end zone to stop that one. You had Jarvis Brownlee get a pick six. It was a very productive day on all fronts.
Yeah, it was. And Jarvis Brownlee talked about it after the game, noticing, had that one pick. He felt like he laughed at it. He said, I should have had 2 pick sixes on the day. But, he made up for it, and he thanked God for the second opportunity he was given and took that one out to the house. We were wondering if he was going to have the speed to bring it there. It was close there, but he brings it in for 6. And Norvell told him he loved him. And he always, Brownlee was very thankful to Norvell for believing in him since Norvell's a rival in Tallahassee. So a really good day for Brownlee too. But, the defense, once again, UMass isn't something – this is not a fascinating team, nothing great from them. But we've seen Florida State, though, not show up to games like this and stay focused and do what they need to do. I mean, a 59-3 win is great. I know, Dustin, you did not want UMass to be scoring there at the end, and they did not. 59 looks a lot better than 59-10. Still, I mean, a big-time margin of a win, but still 59-3 is pretty dominating. And defensively, they were all over Walt Bell.
Yeah. And I was sitting in there till the end when there was 2 minutes left and you had the third stringers and the walk-ons getting reps. And I was like, do not let them score. I was like, 59-3 looks pretty awesome. Cause I mean, it is your biggest win since I believe 2017 against Delaware State at home. And, it was even from the backups, when they got in there, it continued to stay dominant. UMass, they never really got a leg up in this game at any point other than that fumble. So, I mean, for 59 minutes, Florida State completely dominated this game. And it's something you haven't seen in a while. And this team, now you've won 3 straight and you're going into Clemson with a lot of momentum, especially after a win like today for these players who haven't really beat up on a team like this before. They've got to be feeling good.
Yeah, no, this team, feels like they have a lot of confidence. And listening to the press conference afterwards, a lot of the beat and reporters were asking them, you got a big game next week, and there was multiple questions about that. You got Clemson next week. You're going up to Death Valley, but the guys kind of felt more focused and keyed in on this weekend. That's something Norvell has been trying to preach to this team and build that culture there. Just focus on this week, and we'll figure out next week, once it comes time, and focus on just one team. And, this is going to be a big game this upcoming weekend. But just sticking to this, Florida State, you get to see Chubba Purdy. Didn't get to see him at all since last year against NC State. 5 of 5, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. He talked about it in the press conference afterwards. Jordan Young, who had a great week of practice and was looking forward to him getting some playing time, scores a touchdown. But he talked to Jordan Young before the drive and said, hey, I'm trying to get you 6 points. I'm trying to get you a touchdown. And sure enough, he did and had a strike there wide open to Jordan Young. But like you had mentioned earlier, Dustin, this team, you were able to see some guys, second stringers, some younger guys get in there, and it was really nice to see. But it was cool to hear, too, Mackenzie Milton. Norvell had mentioned it, too, after the game, that Mackenzie Milton went and told Norvell and said, hey, don't worry about my playing time for this game. Florida State was, way ahead. This game was over. He told him, I want the younger guys to get reps over me. And I think that's just something telling about who Mackenzie Milton is as a person, as a player, as a leader, and a guy that just wants to help out the team overall. And I thought that was something very, very telling about a veteran guy that's in this locker room in Tallahassee.
No, I mean, very mature mindset from McKenzie, because this is going to be probably his last season playing college football. And, obviously he's been relegated to a bench role right now. So you would think he'd want to come in and get that playing time for himself whenever he could. So for him to defer to the younger guys that are going to be with this program for years and years to come and who could be the potential quarterbacks of the future, like I said, I just think that shows a great deal of maturity.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Chuba Purdy's play today? Because I thought he looked in control. He had mentioned that after the game that he felt a lot more comfortable. He said he's a lot more mature in the game on the football field now, and you could definitely see that. And we actually got to see him really look like a manager working down the field, and that's great to see. As probably potentially your QB2, we'll still figure out what Norvell wants to have there at QB2, and we watch the practices and we see that both Milton and Chuba Purdy are splitting a lot of those snaps. But what do you think overall, though, for Chuba Purdy's performance?
Yeah, I mean, he looked really comfortable out there, and that was something that stood out to me. He sat in the pocket a couple times and delivered the ball over the middle and with confidence. And coming back from that injury, not having the reps over the spring, the summer, and really, just starting to pick it back up since the fall began, I think that was huge for him to come in this moment. Like you said, Logan, he hasn't played in an actual game scenario in almost a year to this point, and it was impressive for him to come out there, throw 2 touchdown passes. He was running the RPO as well. There were a couple times where he pulled it down, and he's a pretty decent athlete. He's not like Jordan Travis, but he can do enough with his legs to make plays and move the sticks when necessary. So, hopefully Florida State can have a couple more performances like this, and they can continue to get Chuba Purdy some reps, because it's going to be a battle between him, Jordan Travis, and AJ Duffy next year for that job.
What do you think, Nate, about Chuba Purdy's performance? I know you've been looking forward to seeing him get some playing time.
But I thought he played pretty well. He can take it affect the opponent, but I thought that he had commanded the offense. I thought his throws were really crisp. They were right on the money. The RPO game was really good. I like what I saw. I think you can see the development over the course of the year that he's played. So I think that for me as a FSU fan, I don't think that the quarterback race is over yet. When you look at next year, I know people want to go ahead and annoy Jordan Travis, but I've been saying it for a while that I've always thought Chuba Purdy was going to have a say in everything. So I thought he looked pretty good. Yeah, he got taken to known as UMass, but he still led drives that were impressive. And the few times that he pulled the ball, I think his athleticism, it's not Jordan Travis, but it can match Christian Ponder, which we all know he did a lot on his feet. So good game for Chuba.
Mm-hmm. Going back and looking at this game too statistically, and it didn't really look like it. The stat sheet just shows it, but Sean Corbin had a phenomenal game. He had 11 attempts at running, 127 yards, a touchdown, had a long run of 29 yards. And overall, the rushing attack, Florida State was just all over. Lawrence Toafili also came in and grabbed a touchdown too. 5 players scored a rushing touchdown too, including DJ Williams. Got a little sneak peek at him also, but the running game attack on Florida State's side was on point.
Yeah, it was impressive. Big play after big play after big play. Doesn't matter who's in the backfield. It was huge. And then, throughout the course of the game, you also got to get Ja'Kai Douglas a couple reps. So, playing just about everybody in that backfield, and they all performed, and we've talked about before. Florida State, they have so many players in that backfield, and when you let them all loose, look what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then looking over to Malik McLean too, who had a great week of practice. And one again, he has a big time play on third down where, I mean, it just shows off kind of speed he has. But, that's a guy that's been starting for the last couple of weeks, and he's just going to continue to be he's going to have a great career at Florida State without any kind of doubt there, in my opinion.
Yeah, not a ton from the wide receivers today. I think that play from Malik McClain was probably the most impressive, maybe outside of Ontario Wilson's, acrobatic catch that he went up and pulled down after a drop the drive before. I thought Parchment looked nice as well. His reps came more whenever Chubba Purdy was in, but he had 2 really big catches. And Karen McDonald, Logan, we were up there. He's obviously a big fan of Old Game Day. I don't know if we can say that, but he caught that ball at the 5, pulled the defender off of him, got in the end zone. Heck of an effort from the tight end.
Yeah, no, Cameron McDonald, physical. He's been having a great last couple of weeks. Consistency there, but Florida State is on a 3-game win streak too. I mean, that's something that we haven't been able to say a lot. You look at the second quarter stats here: 28 in the second quarter. I mean, not after the first quarter, Florida State didn't allow any kind of points, and Florida State's defense performed well. And like we said, UMass is not a superior threat. We know that, but going back and looking at the Florida State versus Jacksonville State game where they should have owned that game, this is a nice feeling, most certainly. And I think this team learned from it. And a couple of the players in the press conference, talked about that and said, they learned from that. That was a really bad start to the season, and it's helped them a ton. And they're building confidence, and there's still room for growth. You look at the special teams. I think there's a lot more growth there that needs to be done. And fielding punts inside the 5. And calling a fair catch on it just cannot keep on happening. That's been happening the last couple of weeks, and there's been no need for that. And there's been consistency there. And then you fumble a kickoff return. Norvell had mentioned that. But there's still a lot of fixes and things that Florida State can get better at. But if you look at it as a health standpoint, we go into the game and we see Bavion Johnson get the start. You let Devontae Love-Taylor, who probably could play in this game if need be, but doesn't need to. He's allowed to rest this week and get prepared for Clemson next week. Jashawn Corbin comes in after he was injured against UNC. He comes in and shows that he's 100%, and so he's not dinged. He's going to be good to go for Clemson. Other than that, there's maybe, Sidney Williams. We came into this game learning that he was not available to play. You will keep an eye on that because you most certainly want to have him up there in Death Valley against the Clemson Tigers and Dabo Sweeney. I'm wondering if I'm missing anything here, D-Lou, on health side of things heading into next week.
I don't think so. I would say the majority of the guys that missed today's game could have played today if necessary. But, I think the coaching staff was expecting this one to be over early as well. And it was. I mean, you saw by halftime, I believe Jermaine Johnson was out of the game. How many drives did Jordan Travis get in the third quarter? Was it 1 or 2 before they had him go put the hat on and they put Chubba in? I mean, Chubba played the majority of that second half. So really, this was a game, Florida State, they realized that it was over pretty early, and they knew that they could get their young guys reps while also getting the veterans some extra rest heading into this huge game against Clemson. There was no point to keep guys in that second half and potentially risk a pointless injury.
No reason whatsoever. Amari Gaynor leads the team in total tackles. Had a lot of tackle for losses in this game, as you can see. This category is stacked with a lot of players getting some playing time. Kevin Knowles got his first start, and I thought he looked pretty solid too. He gets his first start as a true freshman this weekend. But, other than that, they were able to rest Keir Thomas, Jermaine Johnson, and a lot of their other guys like Lovett. Still, guys getting a lot of playing time, but there's no reason, this is why you have these games. You get on the win column, you get some extra rest and get your starters out and get prepared for, the Clemson matchup next weekend, which right now I'm not sure what that score is. We should probably check that. 7-14.
14-7 Pitt.
14-7 Pitt. So you're looking at a Florida State team driving with confidence, growth, or believing in their coach, and then maybe a little uneasiness going on in Death Valley, D-Lou. And that's going to be a really fun one to preview because I think Florida State is definitely, obviously, on a winning streak here, but it seems like they've got a lot of confidence. Penalties. Let's look at the penalties real quick because I actually did not see that there. I mean, this is the first time in how many years at Florida State.
Three
has been able to
penalties.
stay-
Three penalties, 41 yards.
I mean, that needs to be on the headline. There needs to be an article written this week about that, because if you think about it, I forget the stat that was up earlier this week, but I believe let's just say it's really damn low, and it hasn't happened like this in a while. But if you think about it, you can easily overlook, you can play silly and all that kind of stuff, but for you to stay dialed in to a UMass team like this and not cause so many penalties, that is huge. And when it comes to big games, because this is going to be a gigantic game next Saturday for Florida State, because Norvell wants this win, penalties is going to be the thing that I think is going to either make it or break it for this team to stay in it. I don't even think it's like to stay in it. I think it's just going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be a good one. I said it last week. I think this is going to be a really good football game that we'll be watching next Saturday.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, the way the season's going, you've really got two teams that are trending in opposite directions right now. Florida State, it seems like the offense has finally found its identity. They're starting to hit their stride. Whereas Clemson, they've started to taper off the last couple of weeks. Obviously, they struggled with Syracuse. I think it was last Friday. Right now, they're in a dogfight with Pittsburgh. We'll see if they're able to pull that out on the road. But, you look at Florida State, they've really went run heavy these last 2 weeks. You had the 41-13 run to pass against North Carolina in that win. Today, it was 45 runs to 15 passes. So you've seen them find their identity on offense. They haven't turned the ball over on offense in 2 games. You did have the fumble and the kick return. I don't count that because it wasn't the offense. And in the red zone, I mean, Florida State, they've been insane recently. During this 3-game winning streak, 15 of 15 in the red zone. So you're getting in the scoring position and you're getting points every single time. And, I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but they had multiple 80-yard touchdown drives today. They had a 94-yard touchdown drive today. Last week, I remember that it was at least, or not last week, but against North Carolina, it was, I think, 3 drives of 77 yards or longer. So not only are they scoring, they're also putting drives together and running more clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they're running the clock, and that helps out with a successful running game that Florida State's having.
And they're not committing penalties, like you said. They're figuring it out.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And calling each other out. What was it today? Amari Gaynor. I don't know. People on Twitter, I wasn't watching the screen up there in the box, but Amari Gaynor got called for roughing the passer, and Keir Thomas laid it on him. He was just not happy with that kind of penalty. And that's been a thing that's been continuous basis the last month or so, month and a half, of guys holding each other accountable. And, sometimes players listen better to the teammates. That's Keir Thomas. He's a veteran guy, and just wasn't happy at all with Gaynor about that penalty, because that almost ruined the drive. Then obviously UMass, Jamie is able to lock down an interception there, but still that was going to ruin that defensive drive for Florida State on 3rd down. And, Keir Thomas let Amari Gaynor know that, that can't happen. But, penalty wise, it's getting so much better, and it needs to be talked about more, because this team is getting better and better at it. And I know Norvell is preaching on that, playing smart. And, it kind of started this trend once Florida State brought these refs to practice. They're there every day. We're seeing them. They're throwing flags on anything that they're running team. They're running drills. They're running one-on-ones. They're throwing flags. And, that's something Norvell implemented it into his practices. And it seems like that is a key that's helping this team a lot. And, keep them out there all day long. So I'm looking at a few more stats here, if there's anything impressive here. Defensive, or I think this is not defensively, but offensively, 6 of 9 on 3rd down for Florida State. Anything else notable here from UMass before we get off of here, and then we'll be preparing for Florida State versus Clemson next week?
I would just say, heck of a game. I know he didn't have an interception, but heck of a game from Kevin Knowles, a true freshman who has continued to assert himself over the last couple of weeks, and now he's a viable starter in that defensive backfield. And it's going to be huge to get another young DB back next week, hopefully, and Sidney Williams for that Clemson game.
Hemi Knoll for life is talking in here about Odell and yanking guys' heads off. this is something if you know Coach Odell Higgins and seen him at practices, or you maybe seen him coaching too, but mainly at practices. But, this is how Odell Higgins is. He actually, I'll say this past Wednesday practice, had a nice little encouraging words for Patrick Payton on a missed rep that he had to redo about 4 times. Although Payton was playing well, let's give him that. Is a young freshman coming in, and Patrick Payton also got a lot of playing time in the second half. But Coach Odell Higgins is Odell Higgins. He is a fantastic coach, and he's done a phenomenal job sending guys to the league. There's nothing more I really need to talk to him about. He knows what he's doing, but I love seeing that, and that's just how it's going to go at Florida State. And you can tell Odell Higgins loves being under Coach Norvell. Coach Woodson talked about him too, who just most recently came from Auburn. These guys really like coaching under Norvell, and I think Odell, a veteran who's been here for so long, kind of got some new life under him. I got to be honest with you. He's running around practices. He's one of the loudest on the field. Like, he's just got kind of that new energy, and I think Odell Higgins is excited to be under Norvell and what kind of future they have together in the coaching tenure. We'll see. But yeah, I think that's practically it here. Florida State's currently on a 3-game winning streak. I don't remember the last time we were able to say that, Dustin, but Florida State is headed
2017
in the right direction. There you go, 2017. It's still a long ways. Still a long ways to go if we think about it.
Definitely
a long ways. We don't talk about 2017, don't we?
That was like the best season in recent memory. So, well, maybe we should give 2017 some more love.
A little. Well, you want to talk about Jimbo? No, I don't think anybody wants to hear about Jimbo.
I think it was the last 3 games. So those were the good games of the 2017 season when Odell took
last
over.
3 games. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Florida State's currently a 3-game winning streak. We will be live here on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. We will have a special guest too, so keep an eye out for that. We'll be previewing Clemson. We'll do our last thoughts on Florida State versus UMass, dominating win in Joe Campbell Stadium. We haven't been able to say that in a while, but Florida State fans will have a good start to their weekend. Thanks, guys, as always, for watching and listening. If you're on iTunes, feel free to rate 5 stars, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe. If you're on Facebook, share with all your friends, share with all your groups, everything of that nature. But I definitely appreciate everybody supporting us and hanging out with us. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's weekend. Go Steelers, and we'll talk to you guys next week on Hear the Spear. Peace.